Hello everybody, it's Bronze Braun, and today I'm giving my analysis and review of a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Structure deck, Order of the Spellcasters. Now, I decided to pick this deck because, one, it's the only new deck my Walmart has, and two, I really like Spellcaster decks, especially if they're based around spell counters. And yes, I know, a lot of tournament players, if not most players in general, don't like spell counter decks because they take way too long to set up. But this isn't a tournament review, and this Spellcaster deck is a lot better than you think it is. Now before I start, I will be judging this deck on my perspective, based on this scale, and if you feel like I'm giving a card too much credit, just take it with a pinch of salt. So with that out of the way, let's get to it. Upon opening the box, you get your standard 43 card deck, a placemat, and a beginner's guide. Of course, every structure deck comes with a beginner's guide, but I gotta say, this new playmat actually looks pretty nice. If I were to ever use a playmat, I'd definitely use this one. Opening the deck up, you get 43 cards, which is actually a little bit more than your usual 40 card deck. And 2 advertisement cards for Duel Links and their new game that nobody cares about. Wait. Legacy of the Duelist coming out for the Switch? I knew what Yu-Gi-Oh! Game I'm getting. The 43 cards have 8 new cards, and considering we have a remake of Endymion, it makes sense. You know it's going to be a different deck when the first 4 cards in the deck list are Pendulum cards. First up is the Pendulums, and man, does this deck show the full potential of Pendulum and spell counters. Endymion, the Mighty Master of Magic, delivers on what his original card was, and does it better. This time, instead of removing spell counters from one card, you can remove them from any part of your field. He's got a good potential in setup as a Pendulum, and as a monster, while he has a spell counter, he's a 2800 attack point wall. Overall, amazing card to start the deck off with. Reflection of Endymion is what the card says it is. Instead of taking spell counters off the board and destroying cards, it brings itself and another card from the Pendulum zone to the monster zone and returns cards to the hand instead of destroying them. Even when it's destroyed by battle with a spell counter on it, you can add 1 Endymion card from your deck to your hand. So that's an extra bonus as well. Also, she's pretty hot. So overall, amazing card. The rest of the Pendulum cards aren't bad either. Magister of Endymion and Servant of Endymion are good separate and great together. Mythical Beast Medusa is good if you need more spell counters and lowering attack, while Magical Abductor is built around Pendulum and Spellcaster cards. Overall rating for the Pendulums? Amazing. It's just shy of a full amazing because there's really no frequent way to increase their attack and defense, but at the same time, it won't be hard to bring any of them back out from the extra deck, so it's still amazing. As far as normal monsters go, there are 0 in this entire deck, so we're going to go ahead and skip it and go towards the effect monsters. The effect monsters, while being all reprints, are still good for the purpose of the deck. Endymion, the Mighty Master of Magic, you get 1 copy of him, and he's only there because of the card that was made after him. And you want to know something else? I bought the original structure deck for Endymion, and I actually still have the original card that came in that deck. Man, that deck has not aged well. Anyways, compared to his Pendulum remake, he can't come close to him, but this deck still has made it a bit easier to summon him, but only a little bit, so he's a decent attack wall and a placeholder at least. Overall, he's decent. The rest of the cards are mostly spell counter cards with a few nice cards in it. Crusader of Endymion is a great defender. Defender, the Magical Knight, is great once I read his effect properly. I originally thought you can only save 1 card with his effect, but no. As long as you got enough spell counters, you can completely negate any effect that comes towards your side of the field. Mythical Beast Cerebus is good if you can keep spell counters on it. Magical Something is good, especially if you put a high-level number card in this deck. Spellbook Magician of Prophecy is great for this deck, while the rest are a little forgettable to me. The 2 that surprised me the most here was Dark Magician of Chaos and Fairy Tale Luna. I had to take a second look at Dark Magician of Chaos to make sure I was seeing this right, and I'm pretty sure they made Reflection of Endymion 1850 attack to give Fairy Tale Luna any purpose in this deck, if any purpose at all, but it makes this card so much better. So considering most of the effect cards are based around the concept of spells and spell counters, I'm going to give them an overall rating of great. Next up is the spells, and man, these spells are so good! Spell Power Mastery and Endymion's Lab were literally made for this deck and are amazing. 8 of these spells are solely put in for helping thin out the deck, and the magical cards are just in there to help you even more. And we even got a secret spell card that can bring back a monster you need as a last resort. What else can I say about this? Overall, amazing. Second to last is the traps. Now, yes, they all have different purposes and can be helpful with cards, spell counters, or saving a monster in a pinch. But considering 3 of them are continuous in a spell-based deck, and the fact that there really isn't anything you can do to get rid of them until they're used up or destroyed, you have to stick with them. I mean, of course Konami put these traps in. They're traps. They're a part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Too, but you could take 3 out of the 5 traps out, if not all of them, and it really wouldn't hurt your deck overall. So, I'm gonna have to give this a rating of decent. It would be okay, but Gagaga Shield and Magician's Circle are good with a Desperate Hand, so that saves it from okay. Lastly, there's the Link monsters. There's only one in this deck, Daybreaker, the Shining Magical Warrior, and he does a Link, Spellcaster, Spell Counter monster the justice it needs, and wraps up the deck in a nice little bow. He gains attack for each spell counter placed on him, he can place a spell counter on a Spellcaster monster that was special summoned to a space he points to, he gives 0 Link arrows to your opponent, and he can destroy cards with his spell counters. Overall, I don't even have to say it, amazing. So the pros and cons of this deck. The pros are, it's done pure justice to spell counter decks, a dying if not rarely seen Yu-Gi-Oh! Mechanic. It's got cards that are seamlessly linked to each other, pun not intended. Its main cards play off its mechanics perfectly. While the cons, it could be a little hard to get things going if you draw certain cards, it could have a few more attack and defense increase cards, and it has 3 continuous traps in a Pendulum spell and spell counter based deck. So with all that considered, I give this deck my overall rating of amazing. While it really has good cards, and I mean really good cards that can get you places quickly, if you get very bad luck and get certain cards that just feel like they were added in to make it 40 cards without multiple duplicates, you're gonna have a bad time. Especially with those 3 continuous traps. It keeps this deck just shy of amazing. Now, compared to tournaments, I don't know how this will compete. Probably not very good. But hey, I'm just some random guy on the internet, so what do I know? Now it's time for me to take this deck up against some friends, get my ass handed to me every time, come back and get mad at this deck, and make a criticism video for it later. But aside from that, hope you guys did enjoy my first Yu-Gi-Oh! Review and analysis video, and of course, thank you all for watching.